Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Bill Treneer, President of International Communications Management. ICM is in the data analyst training and consulting business. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring you a discussion on big data. Now, a lot of you have heard that term before and what it means, but specifically this session is titled Big Data versus Real Information. And I can tell you as a business owner who works traditionally in the cybersecurity space, we have tons of logs and tons of data. And I can tell you when I'm doing something with cybersecurity, I don't really want logs and data. What I really want is information so I can know what to do to hunt down malware and whatever else. And as we got into this data analyst business, I found out the same thing held true for big data. So today we decided to put together a panel discussion for the audience that our intention is. This audience is intended to be people in the C-suite, CIOs, chief technology officers, people like that, who want to do a big data project, but they need it to be real information and not just reams and reams of data. So I've got two experts here today. My first one is Robert Stewart. Now, Robert Stewart is an ICM consultant, instructor, and general overall SQL guru. Okay. He has over 26 years in database design and development administration and over 17 years in data warehousing. And we'll find out tonight that data warehousing is a little bit different than simple database stuff. So he'll explain that. Over the last 10 years, he's been working with data warehousing and reporting using SQL server business intelligence, the server business intelligence stack. And he's done this in every industry, basically, there is over the last 26 years. And Robert is currently teaching a 6-week SQL course to several of ICM's future consultants and contractors. And so we're super excited. So good to have you with us today, Robert.
Thank you.
And also we have Jeff Roberts. Jeff is the founder of Innovation Vista, which is an alliance partner of ICM. They specialize in transforming IT departments into profit centers with differentiated technologies and capabilities and things like that they do. It includes data and analytics. Jeff has been doing some different types of IT leadership for more than 2 decades now. He's been a 5-time chief information officer, and between that and his consulting practice, he's achieved over $1 billion of revenue. Now, not cost savings here. We're talking revenue, which is, until I talked to Jeff, I never knew an IT department could be a source of money, a source of revenue. So that's different. And he's going to tell you a little bit about how to do that today. He's transformed multiple IT departments into profit centers, like I said. He's been a Houston finalist for Enterprise Chief Information Officer of the Year. And 15 of his former subordinates have gone on to C-level roles in IT leadership. So as you can see today, ICM has put together an extensive panel for you. All right, so let's get into our first questions here. So Jeff, let's start with you. How should a company, here's my first question. How should a company start thinking about big data projects and what it might do for them? So how should they start thinking about it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I like your framing of it as what it can do for them. Oftentimes, as IT professionals, we are tempted to think the other way around. We're tempted to think, what do we have? What can we pull together? How can we consolidate it and integrate it? And then we'll figure out from there what we can do. And so I really like the framing of that is what it can do for the business. I actually have a slide that kind of summarizes the process that we take clients through. Basically, we recommend working backward. We want to talk to business leadership, get their vision for what capabilities might move the needle. How would they win more business? How would they add to revenue and market share? What are their competitors doing that they're not doing yet, that they may feel like they need to play some defense? Or what opportunities are there to play offense, where their customers have a need And up to then, no one is filling it, and they have an opportunity to maybe really disrupt their industry. So it's basically, I love the title of this whole segment, honestly, real information, not the data. And so our process, we sort of walk through, starting with that business vision and objectives. We really need leadership buy-in, and we need them to set the compass heading. And part of that is because there's quite a bit of hard work on the journey of big data and really turning it into real information. And we need that commitment. There will be speed bumps. We need the commitment that they will help us get over those, and that we won't allow the skeptics in the organization to point at those and say, see, maybe this won't work after all. You need all of us human beings to do all of this. So that leadership buy-in. Then we get into what are we doing with the data quality, which is an often underestimated portion of the work. We start with basic analytics, descriptive analytics, and BI, which has been around a long, long time, but often is only used on isolated silos of data. So the power of that really comes when you centralize it. Visualizations are often very powerful to show some things that in a row and column kind of format don't really tell a story, but when you put them in a visual, they can. And ultimately, a lot of our conversations are about AI, predictive analytics, and data science. That's the very end of the journey, honestly, and there's so much work to get there. But the power of data science is very exciting, and so that's out there for businesses. That want to think about what is really data going to do in terms of value. That's really kind of the process and where it might lead to.
So you start with what they want to gain, or what information they want to get, and then you work backwards. That's your whole strategy.
Exactly. Visioning session first, then we talk data.
Okay. And so business intelligence comes into that. That was the BI in your slide. And then you said artificial intelligence is last, right?
Yeah. If a company is not positioned to do BI very well, they really are not going to do AI. And
Yeah.
we do get calls sometimes. It's very shiny and very exciting thing to tell the board of directors that we're doing AI. But most companies that want to are not ready in the sense of their data, the quality, the cleanliness, the completeness of their data. It's just not ready, because if you build models with poor data, you're going to end up with false positives and false negatives, and it's going to lose credibility and momentum very quickly.
So a lot of projects are just organizing the data and getting it right.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. All right, Robert, let's turn to you now, because you've kind of built a career leveraging SQL for different business solutions, right? What is a typical business case that you'd run into for someone who's starting an SQL project? Like, could you give me a couple examples? What value does like an SQL project bring to a business, like return on investment, that sort of thing?
Well, Jeff was saying it right. You've got to find out what it is that the business needs and where they're going to go with stuff before you start that journey. And it's the same with a SQL project or any kind of a data or data warehousing project. You have to know what the end goal is. If you don't know what the end goal is, you're not going to find it. You're just going to wander around aimlessly. And so a lot of companies are too small. They don't have a big IT department. What they have is someone in accounting that knew how to use Excel. And so they built this monster Excel workbook that gives them the information. But every month they have to tweak it for 15 days out of the month before it'll work at the end of that month. So that's the kind of stuff that companies are dealing with. And what they really need is they need someone to come in, identify what it is, and help them identify what it is that they want to do. And then they need to start that journey by looking at the data. Will the data do what they're trying to do? Will it provide those insights once they build out a data warehouse or any kind of a data product on top of their data. And usually what they're trying to do is they're trying to solve a problem. They've got a compliance report issue. They've got some financial reporting that they've got to do. They've got to do some kind of sales analysis because their sales went in the tank because of COVID. Whatever those things are, that's what their data can help them solve. Because if they were a restaurant, for example, and they were doing, X amount of takeout before COVID, now they're only doing half seating and their takeout is still doing about the same as it was, then they're doing something wrong, because they should be able to use that menuing that they're doing for takeouts. They should be changing that up, figuring out what does sell, what sells the best. And I can give you a good example. The Chick-fil-A that my daughter worked at is doing only drive-through. They are doing more sales now than they did when they have both drive-through and restaurant and dining. So it doesn't matter that you've lost some business. As long as you have something that someone wants to buy, you're going to have to be able to show that in the data. And that's what databases are all about. It records the information about your sales and everything, but then you go that next step into a SQL project or a data warehousing project where you use that and you take that data and you transform it into information. Then you take that information and you transfer it into knowledge. Now that you know about what's going on, now you can translate that into insights. And that's the whole cycle that you need to run through. And Jeff was right. You've got to have somewhere to store the data first, and it's not in your transaction system. You've got to have a data warehouse or some kind of data repository to put it in.
Yeah, because Excel and things like that are just not going to scale, right? They're not going to scale
Right.
to the size of what you need to be done. Too many pieces of information. Too many questions need to be answered.
Right.
So,
and I've seen here in Houston where electricity supply companies are using Access and Excel to run their business.
oh goodness. Well, and you also early in your early in your answer there, you were mentioning small businesses, right? And
Right.
they just don't have the resources. But we'll talk about cloud a little bit later. But you have spoken to me before, but with some of the cloud options now, they don't have to invest that much to be able to get a real solution that they can use,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. What they can do is they can spin up the resources that they need. They may be running their in-house database on-prem or on their within their local data center, within their offices, but they can spin up these external machines to be however big they want or however small they want. And then as they build it out, they can scale those easily because they don't have to go out and buy hardware. They don't have to go out and buy a system administrator. They don't have to go out and buy a DBA and have that talent in-house, because the cloud provider will do that for them.
Yeah, with cloud, the hardware price is cheap, and if they need knowledge, of course, they can just call us, right?
Right.
Call us, and we'll take care of it. All right. So very good, very good. Okay, Jeff, let's go back to you again. Now, I'm gonna ask you something specific, because we kind of mentioned it, about how you turn these IT departments and their data into profit centers. Now, most of us all think of an IT department as a cost center, right? I mean, that's almost every business looks at it that way. But
Yes.
what you've done is unique. You found a way to drive revenue from the IT department and companies' data. Now, you've explained this to me, but one more time, can you explain it to our audience? Like, how do you do that? How is that done? Because it's always been really
Absolutely.
interesting to me.
Yeah, and I wish I had a soundbite pithy answer, but the truth is, it's different in each company and it's different in each industry. I do have a slide.
Yeah, give me a couple examples then. Give me
I've got
some
a slide
specific examples.
Absolutely, and sometimes just envisioning this from specific company examples helps paint the picture. So our first example is a consumer finance company, and I've got some information on here. I'm not going to read through this entire slide, but basically we took the revenue that was generated from IT from zero. Very typically, this company started out with an operational mindset. So they were really good at operating the systems, keeping them secure, keeping them backed up, keeping them performing well, but zero revenue. We then, at the end of these enhancements and build out of these capabilities, we're driving $120 million of revenue. So quite a turn. Quite a turn.
Per year.
Per year.
$120 million of revenue.
Year. Yes.
How do you do that?
How we did that? Those bullets below give some details, but we created a new revenue stream where on a $1 million investment, I'm
not sure we're seeing that slide. Do you have a slide up there? Are you sharing that?
Russ, can we get that? I am sharing. Are you seeing it?
No. We're not seeing it. But go ahead anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead anyway and talk about it.
Verbally talk through these. So we
there we go. Now we see it.
Okay, great. So for example, that first column, we created a new revenue stream, brand new. We were not making this money before we created this. Just $1 million, and I say that like it's not a lot of money, but the return was $6 million annual, so 600% ROI, and that was basically selling an add-on service to existing clients. They already had these as customers. We went to them and said, "Look, we've got this model. We're doing this work on your portfolio of accounts, and we would love to share this with you. We think it's leading edge. We think it adds value. This net present value model that basically was expert system and AI predictive model, and $6 million in the door." We also then accelerated the existing revenue stream, and this I find more common opportunities to do this. So we had a $20 million investment here, but that then drove $90 million of revenue. So 450% ROI on that.
That's in 1 year though, right?
These are home run balls, so to speak. These kind of ROIs. But when you talk about moving that top line, this is what can happen. And if you're offering something that competitors do not have, you start winning more business. You start doing business with people that you wouldn't have had a chance to do with before, and things of that nature. So that's a finance consumer facing example. Example 2 is commercial real estate brokerage. So this is more of a B2B kind of environment, and there we took IT revenue from, again, zero to 21 million of annual revenue, and that flipped the IT budget from a negative 11 to a plus 5.
Wow!
So we did add some cost to IT. You can see in that math, but going to a plus 5 million, again, turning them into a profit center with revenue of their own that exceeded the cost, not only the cost of the revenue generating capabilities, but the cost of the entire operation of their platform. So that's really, you talk about leverage that really excites business leadership. Those kinds of things are possible. And this one was fully with accelerated revenue. So we had some AI recommendations on potential prospects for deals. $5 million investment, 20 million of revenue. That's, again, 400% ROI, just enormous returns on these when you find the right project. And then incremental deals, just on a report. This is more of a BI kind of thing. It was, multi-page, very deep analysis, but not even AI. $300,000 investment for that project, $1 million of additional revenue. So it's a couple of examples, but again, it looks different in each company. That's part of our process, and I do wish it was a recipe book. Although maybe I don't, because if it were, then someone would publish a book about it, and they wouldn't need my services, right? But
everybody would do it, and it wouldn't be you, right?
Yeah. It's different. It needs to be different. It depends on the competition. It depends on what your customers would love to have, they're not getting. It depends on the positioning and the strategy of the company itself, obviously. But a lot of real world exciting projects out there, and of course there's some Silicon Valley examples that I've not been a part of that have hit some home run balls themselves.
Okay, so you're taking the functions of an IT department with their data and creating brand new products, basically, right? The products they didn't have before now go into that's what creates the new revenue streams. Either it makes them more efficient or it gives them whole new products to sell. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, some of both, right? And the turbocharging of existing sales is less sexy as a headline for the board of directors, but honestly, that's meaningful. And ask any sales organization if they can get insights about their customers that their competition doesn't have.
And deals, that's right. That's going to win them deals. I think that's going to be something that's going to excite some people. Robert, let's go back to you again on data warehousing, right? From what a company's data
system, their accounts receivable and payable, all of that, they're using something where everything's spread out. You have a table for this, a table for that. You have a table for addresses, a table for phone numbers, a table for clients, and so on. In a data warehouse, what you do is you consolidate all of those different sources of data. You consolidate their resource planning systems, you consolidate their invoicing and their accounts receivable and payable all into one place, so that you've got a good spot to look at the data as a whole over the enterprise, not just as a little piece of it or a little silo of it. And that can give you a lot of insights just by doing that one thing,
right,
getting it into one place. Because you can take a look at, let's say, accounts receivable, where people are paying you money. How many people are waiting until for 30 days and then paying their invoice? Well, you're floating them that loan for 30 days. So there's a lot of things like that you can get insight on and understand your business better, because the data's in one place. That same customer that's buying things from you, you may be buying things from them, but you're paying them in 15 days. So there's things like that you can learn about your own business. The other part of that is that a data warehouse is really designed for reporting purposes.
Okay.
It's not designed to run your business. It's designed to give you insights about your business, so that you can take and do reporting off of it. You can run AI queries off of it. You can run other things, business intelligence with Power BI or Tableau or click-through view. Anything like that can be attached on top of that platform that your data's been consolidated in. And you're not affecting your primary systems because you're not using them for reporting. You're using your data warehouse. So by doing things like that, you can get a better idea of what's happening with your data. And it doesn't have to start with this huge data project where you're going to spend, $100 million and that. It can start small, and you can have a goal. An example is one that I'm working on right now is for an HR group within a company. And what they want to know is we have these job recs and we have candidates coming in. Are we getting enough candidates in? How long does it take to process those candidates through and decide if they're a good fit? Do we have enough people applying for the job? Based off of the job description in that area, are we paying the right amount of money for that job? A lot of things like that they're going to be able to get insight on once they get it into one place and out of their recruitment system.
So it's really designed for fast extraction, right? The information,
Exactly.
which is different than your software programs that run your regular business. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So it's designed specifically to grab information and give you information to make a decision.
It's designed for speed.
Okay, excellent. So data warehousing is a good way to go, even for small projects, right? I mean, it's becoming more viable.
Yeah, you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to start off with a huge project. Just have one thing in mind, and then you can spin off multiple things from that.
Okay. Well, we've given people some good things to look at. Jeff, let me go back to you. What are some common mistakes that companies make? What are some of the common mistakes that a business leader should know about before they try to take on like a big data project on something like this?
Yeah, it's a great question, and this is a topic that there are a lot of articles in the Wall Street Journal and all over the internet. A lot of executives are interested in AI, data science, robotic process automation. I think one big mistake is they think that these are things that can be bolted on to their organization. And that's an enormous mistake, because if you don't begin with a mindset change that really data is an asset. If your company still believes that data is just the stuff you have to put into the system in order to get a particular transaction processed or to get people paid on a deal or some mindset like that, it's not going to go very far, because you don't have the kind of information, you don't have the data that can be turned into real information, right?
It's just data. It's just data.
And so data is an asset. There's all kinds of third-party data sources that have sprung up in the last 5 to 10 years. So there's lots of ways to enrich data, but everyone can get access to those things. And so one of the things I counsel clients on is your unique data is the only thing you have that's unique. And that sounds simple to say, but think about the power of that with the tools and what we can draw out of it and the predictions we can make about the customers you deal with because of what you know about those customers. No one else knows that about those customers. And so if you think about it that way, it's much more effective. The bolt-on, the easy button kind of, we want to do AI. Can you help us do AI? I get that question a lot, and I'm posting things online about that. So forth.
Sure. Here's a little chat box for you. There's your AI. There you go.
Yeah, right. I get it. Right. And but often the answer is you're not ready, and that's a hard thing. But I think business executives, they get really excited, and then when the journey is long, or if it's not the easy button, and there's all kinds of other things that we're going to need to do first. The economics are absolutely there. We just looked at that. If you find the right use cases, they're absolutely there, but you've got to go through lots of other things that sound a lot less interesting to get to that point.
A lot less sexy than AI, right?
I think, the other big mistake that I see companies make is they let IT run this. I made the comment earlier about the IT sort of start with the data view of things rather than the business application view. And that leads to a lot of disappointment, a lot of failed projects and wasted money, because if it doesn't move the business needle, it's not real. It shouldn't be happening. Now, are there some projects that make sense for a lab and let's see whether we can get predictive accuracy on certain things? Maybe, but even for those, I say, look, if some business executive is not saying, I would love to have this, if I had this, I would take over the industry, that kind of a view, then it's probably not an impactful enough project.
Interesting. All right. That was a good answer. I'm thinking people want to hear that because they want to stay out of potholes, right? That's really a big issue. Okay, Robert, we've touched a little bit on the cloud. Can you expand on that a little bit? I know we talked a little bit about some of those advantages of being in a cloud environment. Can you just add a little bit more to that? I think there's a little bit more to flesh out of that cloud discussion.
Well, no matter what size company that you have, let's say it's your company, Bill, and you've got servers somewhere doing something. And if you had one day a year where you had to do 10 times the hardware that you have now, what would you do?
One day?
One day.
I'd get to do something on the cloud for sure. I'd do something I could spin up fast, pay the fees for it, and then I would dump it. I'd dump it as soon as I could, or put it to the side and not pay the fees for it.
Exactly. And the example of that is Domino Pizza.
Oh.
One day a year, they need 10 times the resources that they use on a daily basis to do their job. That one day a year is Super Bowl.
Super Bowl Sunday, I bet. That's
Super Bowl
right.
Sunday. They spin up 10 times the resources to handle the orders. Wow. They drop them that night because they don't need them anymore.
That's right.
So if you had to keep the hardware around to do that one day a year's worth of business, think of how much that would cost you.
Right.
You would only use it 5 times before it's time to change it out.
Right. Well, there's a lot of retail businesses run into that too. They do 30% of their business for the year during the Christmas season, during that one month of the year. Same concept, right? I mean,
same concept.
So a cloud environment, if it's secure, that's a key thing, right? We've got to but of course, hey, ICM's ready for that. We can help you with this whole security process. That's our business, right? So,
and the other side of that is that you don't have to be a certain size. You can be a small mom and pop organization and say, you know what, I want to find out how to grow my business so my grandkids can take it over.
Okay.
Well,
excellent.
That's a simple data project that we can go into with them, get them a data warehouse that's updated all the time, but they're too small for housing that data warehouse on their own. So we put it in Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, something like that, so that if they grow the way they want to grow in 5 years, they're using 10 times the resources, but it's all in the cloud and they're only paying for what they use. Right. And that's the other key. They're paying for what they use. They're not paying for extra hardware. They're not paying for bodies that know all those specialty things like system administration and database administration. They can use special data platforms that Google or AWS or Azure perform all the maintenance on.
Yeah. And a lot of those that have an infrastructure now, as you're saying, they're using that 100% of the time, but it's great for a surge situation of a surge or temporary usage or all those sorts of things. And like you said, for a new business, maybe that's the only way they go, right?
Exactly.
Until they get big enough to buy their own equipment, right?
Well, I've got a friend that has a small business. They do a lot of volume because they are in turbines for power plants. And there's 5 employees in the company.
Wow.
3 salespeople and 2 office people. But their database is on Azure so that they can share it wherever they're at in the US. And they're connecting to it through Microsoft Access.
Okay.
They don't have a special application built for it or anything like that, but they're using the data platform on Azure as their database rather than having a local copy and trying to sync it up and moving it back and forth and all that.
Yeah, great to run a project on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just a couple little things to talk about that I wanted to really get to. I wanted to have a little discussion on artificial intelligence, but Jeff, I think you've got that one. I think we've covered the idea of where we use AI and where it comes into play. So Robert, I'm going to give you one more question. You are working for us right now, training up some future ICM consultants as data analysts. So what are you teaching them? you have this obviously wealth of field experience that's someone like at a college or university is an academic and does not have. So what are you teaching them that's going to make them such great consultants for hire that they may not be getting somewhere else, being under your tutelage, basically?
Well, one of the things that I'm teaching them, Bill, is ask questions, because it's like Jeff said earlier, you got to find out where you want to go with your data. What is it that you want to know from it? What are the questions that you're going to ask it? So one of the things I'm teaching them is those questions to ask, but also how to answer them, how to go into the database with SQL, ask those questions, and get back answers that the business can use. Whenever you're assigned to different projects like they're going to be, they also have to be able to get up to speed quickly. You don't want to spend 2 weeks with them fooling around in the data trying to figure out how to do something with it. So I'm teaching them about the system tables and views so that they can go in and query the data for the database of what is the table names, what are the column names, what kind of data do they house, and that, so that if you want to know something about account numbers, they can go in and they can find out every table where the word account number is. And then they can, okay, well, what do you want to know about accounts? You want to know who the customers are? Do you want to know what the balances are? What are those questions that you want me to answer about it? And that's something that they won't get taught if they go to one of the 1 week classes.
Right.
They'll get a fire hose version of how to do SQL. They'll get but they won't get any insight into what the business is wanting to know. And that's one of the keys that we need younger people, especially, to start learning, is how to ask those questions, but also how to be a JOAT, a JOAT, jack of all trades.
Right. Because what you have in the classroom is not always what's going to happen in the field, right? You've got to be ready to troubleshoot and do those other skills.
Exactly. You've got to be the data analyst. You've got to be the SQL developer. You've got to be the report developer. You've got to be all these things so that you can provide that service that business needs in order to grow and in order to become a profit center, especially.
Okay, well, excellent. Well, gentlemen, we are pretty much at our time for today, and I thank you so much. I think this is going to be really informative to people who get to watch this. So, Jeff and Robert, thank you so much for attending this, and we're going to, if anybody wants to get in contact with us, we will show you how to do that. We will have links that you can get to reach us, and we're ready for projects, and we're ready to help you, and we're ready to start listening to what your needs are. And as you can tell, we've got some real expertise in this area. All right, so thank you very much. That's the end of our panel discussion, and I hope you all enjoyed it immensely.